Once there was a garden, and in this garden was a road. And on this road, there was a boy. And in that boy, there was God. When we talk about Woodstock and getting back to the garden, there's 3 gardens for me. The first garden was a garden I grew up on. That beautiful farm as a kid. When I would walk through those fields and I would climb the cliffs that were behind the farm and I would breathe in the air and watch the wind blow the trees, I would feel the harmony and sense the presence of God. My name is Pat Colucci. I grew up in the 1950s and 60s in suburban New York State. Typical kid, just in a black and white world. I entered the seminary in 1967. The world was starting to fall apart. I felt removed. I watched my friends come back in body bags. There was too much pain and misery. I said, God, what's going on here? I'm supposed to know how to fix this, and I can't. I kept banging on the altar. Make yourself real. Answer me. And I looked down and saw that newspaper article on a bench. It said something about a peace gathering in upstate New York. And I said, all right, Lord, if that's what you want me to do. A girl who I had seen in town happened to say, hey, we're going up there. My friends and I, if you want to follow us on that motorcycle, you're more than welcome. I start going up the New York Thruway, but finally traffic just came to an abrupt stop. And out of the back seat, that same girl gets out and she says, hey, why are we sitting here? Why don't we ride up the road? So we did the whole trip together. I arrived on the shores of White Lake and I looked around and I felt tremendous energy between people. And I walked out onto the field and Sly and the Family Stone came out. White fringe jacket. And then he got to that song, Gotta Take You Higher. And 500,000 kids started standing up and stamping the ground and putting the peace sign in the air. But for me, it wasn't higher in the drug sense. It was a higher state of consciousness. For the first time, we realized that we had the freedom to question, because we looked around and we said, it's not just me. We have power. Maybe we can take that and change what's going on. Right then and there, this idea of being someone who's going to preach from a pulpit was gone. I joined the royal priesthood, who were all carrying the light. And I was going to find that light and grab hold of it and then spread it. I said there were 3 gardens. There was a garden of my youth. There was a garden of Woodstock. Let's go all the way back. Adam and Eve. It was the first time that man said to himself, I'm the master of my own destiny, and I'm going to get what I want. After Woodstock, the bloom was sort of off the rose. I went through a period of withdrawal. Just thinking about peace and love wasn't enough. There had to be some kind of action. I was still at the seminary. I would come home on weekends and I would try to find the answers in the bottom of countless libations. And I would get so numb because I hurt so bad. I was almost defeated. I knew what was right, but I couldn't get it done. I got to the point where I said, you know what? Maybe these guys that are in business. Maybe that's the way to go. I bet you if I had money, I'd be able to cure all my ills. Then I could stop, and then I could do good works. Then I got caught up in the 1970s car industry. I sold a lot of cars. I got very good at that. Jeez, I'm 25 and I'm buying my first house. I'm driving fancy cars. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. Maybe the strong survive. My connection with Woodstock was before Woodstock. When I was a seminarian, I had a friend, Frank, who was building cabins in the town of Woodstock and living off the land, who was a hippie before it was fashionable, and he was very into nature. We became like two ragtag philosophers. And I tried to show him that the way to fulfillment was through the church, and he was trying to show me, hey, it's here, it's right now, it's what's happening. On top of Meads Mountain, outside of the town of Woodstock, Frank fixed up this wooden church. I got on Easter Sunday, a postcard saying that the bishop, Father Francis, wants to meet with you. So I hitchhiked from New York City with $5 in my pocket. Now what happened was, my buddy Frank had talked Father Francis into meeting the other hippies in Woodstock. And he came down off of that mountain, and at age 80-something, became known as Father Francis, the hippie priest. Now, as time went on, Frank went out to Texas. He met a wonderful girl. One day, Frank went out with his two dogs, went in the woods, like he always did, and climbed a tree. He got way up on this tree, and the branches snapped, and he fell down. So Frank became a paraplegic. 5 years go by. Wife may have had interests outside of him. He became angry. She came home one night and he shot her with a shotgun. And then he killed himself. He was a man that loved nature and could not live that way. I went back to Woodstock for the 10th anniversary, 1979. I got all the way up there, and before I knew it, I blew right past the field. And I came back and I said, this is where it was, but there's nothing here. And it had meant so much to me. I went into town and I started talking to people and I said, why isn't there any commemoration of Woodstock? And the reaction was, you hippies, get the fuck out of here. You ruined our town. You came up, you trampled, you left your garbage. You're not wanted here. I got on my bike and I cried for 100 miles. 20 years ago, when I wrote my book, The Closer Song, I had put in all my angst. I was the closer. I was the man that came in and got the signature on the dotted line. The song is about what that experience was like and what I had to forego to achieve those ends. I thought back on those values and ideals I had as a young person and how much what happened to me at Woodstock was still down there in my subconscious, and it was welling up and it was telling me, Pat, you gotta change. You gotta bring it back. So I decided right then and there that what I was going to do was become the best salesperson I could possibly be. I started making my own decisions about how much to save somebody on a sale, about how important it was not to get every last penny out of somebody. And then my sales went through the roof. Come up to Pop-Pop? I've achieved a lot of things. I put a lot of things back into this country, I feel. And now I want to do what's right for this country.
What Iraq might do.
The lives of American servicemen and women
collapse the entire economy of the United States.
We're in the last days of this country's survival.
Is the American dream over?
It's the 99%.
The Occupy movement that happened, that was very stimulating for me. When I speak to 30 and 40-year-old people, they look at us and say, you know, you had some really good ideas and answers, but you let the ball drop. And I'm as guilty as anybody else. After Woodstock, I met that same girl on Beekman Avenue. And she took a box out and gave me this St. Christopher's medal. And she had inscribed, "Love always, Maria, August 28th, 1969. 10 months after Woodstock, we got married, and we're still together. Maria doesn't go back to Woodstock with me. She's matured a bit. I go back every year. I have a nucleus of friends, veterans like myself, who come together. This is Ralph. He goes up. He's 80-something years old and rides up from Virginia. Try to keep the spirit alive. Once there was a road. And on this road, there was God. And in this God was a boy. And in that boy was a garden.